So in my 21 years, I've seen some crazy shit on expense reports. So let me tell you about the one that was really the most wild. Plan B.
That
Plan
pill.
B. Like you, the pill, not like you have a plan
pill.
A, so you're going to plan B. Okay.
Yeah.
Because this trip didn't go as planned, so we're going to do plan B. No, literally
plan B, the pill. From a Walgreens, too. So I had
They wrote the Walgreens wrote that. I mean, most of the times people talk about HIPAA, and HIPAA doesn't actually apply to most people. But did they have the receipt? Oh, questions.
Well, okay. So here's the backstory. So obviously, I'm not per se involved in finance, but it came to my desk being HR. And this is how usually they come to my desk. So the VP of finance had gotten a receipt from one of our recent sales managers' trips. And it was a Walgreens receipt and it was kind of ripped. So he requested another receipt or a better receipt. And of course, the guy's like, I'm sorry, I don't have it. That's all I had, blah, 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 all these excuses. And so it was actually quite a lot of money for a Walgreens. And if you know, Plan B, because I Googled it just a minute ago because I didn't know how much it is, it's only $50. So that wasn't even the concern yet, right? We're not even concerned with what we need to know what is on and what could possibly be personal expenses. So long story short, the VP of finance goes round and round with the sales manager until finally he's able to produce the whole receipt. And on that whole receipt was a lot of things that, like beer purchases, things that at a Walgreens too. Anyway, random things, but on it is a Plan B pill. Now, I don't remember, this didn't happen that long ago too. I don't remember exactly what it said on I don't think it said Plan B on the Walgreens receipt. I'm not sure what it said.
It's like the long medical name.
It was something enough that the VP of finance approached me and was like, we have an issue. The sales manager, rang up. I think it was close to like $600 at Walgreens.
Wait, what?
Yes.
In one trip?
And so I get the receipt, which is, this person actually is remote. So it was like two halves of a ripped receipt. And like the first half is like, normal stuff. You would like Band-Aids and,
what?
Yeah. But then the bottom half is where there's like so much stuff. And I'm like, wow, how'd you spend $600? But anyway, so the Plan B's on there and VP of finance, like this guy ran this on corporate card.
Wait, this guy?
The sales manager was a guy who bought the Plan B.
Got it. Okay.
While on travel?
While on travel in Florida.
And did you say sales manager's trip? Because all of a sudden things are making a little...
Always sales.
There was a couple sales manager. It was a retreat. Did they need a retreat? Absolutely not. Why was the company paying for a retreat? I'm not sure. But that's a whole nother issue and I don't need to go there. So anyway, I get the sales manager on the phone and I'm asking him questions and, he was like, well, we drank on it. That's why the beer and whatnot is on the receipt. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, well, there was something else on there that, why this ended up on my desk. So I'm just kind of, just wanted to, he said, well, yeah, I had to buy that because it happened while I was at work, referring to the Plan B. Because he was on a work trip and he needed to provide the lady the Plan B. So he put it down as a work expense.
Look at this.
I'm potentially saving you tons of money in future, like healthcare and all of this.
Future medical claims.
Yes.
I paid attention in open enrollment and I saw the difference between the single and
the family. And so needless to say, we did make him pay back a portion of the Walgreens bill. And it was a good portion because, like I said, a lot of it, the bottom half of that receipt that was conveniently ripped was stuff that was, wouldn't be covered under a business trip. And also he lost his credit card privileges.
I mean, listen, I'm sure people have very differing opinions on Plan B overall, but I think we can all unite under the idea that it generally should not be a reimbursable work expense.
No.
Wow.
No, exactly.
But I also love that the finance person is like, let me look at this. Let me look at, oh, shoot. Let's have Jamie handle it.
Well, yeah, because I think once he got that second half of the receipt, like I said, it was funny how it was ripped. I remember it so well. It was ripped where you could see some of the items on one side, but it kind of went up where the price part was ripped. Like he did it intentionally. And the bottom half was like the beer. And I thought that there was alcohol, but like wine. Maybe in Florida you can buy wine at a Walgreens. I'm not really sure. But yeah, the Plan B stuck out like a sore thumb.
Well, I mean, also, if you're at the point where you're buying Plan B, then you're buying what, more alcohol?
Right? Like, needless to say, a lot of the sales managers had to, that were also on that trip, had to have a refresher about expenses.
Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
So some of you may know that I have a bunch of animals. 3 dogs, 2 cats, 3 fish, and a turtle, to be exact. And if you're a pet parent like me, you know about Chewy. And when they say they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. Foods, treats, beds, you name it, they have it. And it gets shipped directly to your door in 1 to 2 days. And it's not just dogs and cats. Birds, fish, reptiles, and more. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and are even rolling out vet clinics across the country. Thanks to Chewy's auto ship feature, I'm never getting that "I'm so disappointed in you" look from my pet. I've set up reoccurring shipments of all my essentials we need, so I'm never running out, and I can change or cancel my auto ship order at any time. It's super convenient and one less thing I have to worry about. Speaking of not worrying, Chewy has top-tier 24/7 customer service. I can get expert advice over chat or the phone day or night. Plus, if my pet doesn't love something, Chewy's 100% satisfaction guarantee lets me return it within a year, no questions asked. I personally love the auto ship feature. It's been a huge time saver, but also just peace of mind that I'm not going to run out of like my dog's food. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com/HRBesties. That's chewy.com/HRBesties to save $20 off your first order with free shipping. Chewy.com/HRBesties. Minimum purchase is required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details.
Whew. Well, we've got a plan A today, and that's our meeting. We are going to go ahead and shift gears into that. But first, I would like to run through the agenda. All right. So Cringe Corporate Speak today is brought to us by Ashley. Thank you so much for picking that up. And then we're moving into our meeting. And the hot topic today is all things favoritism. So we'll throw nepotism in there as well. But we get a lot of besties reaching out to us on how the hell do I survive a workplace, a culture, a boss who plays favorites, right? So we'll go into some best practices there, what to do if you are the favorite, what to do if you're not the favorite, And then, of course, we'll leave time at the end for questions and comments. So Ashley, Cringe Corporate Speak, what do you got today?
My Cringe Corporate Speak I have is dry run. And what I mean by this, if you haven't heard it, this is if you're doing like a presentation or an event and you run through everything with all the players and get things ready to go, and they call it a dry run. But my question is, that's the flip of the corporate cringe speak, is if a dry run is a dry run, is the real thing a wet run?
Yes, right. Because there has to be a different type of run, right? If there's a dry one.
It is. And I laugh because I was working on a dry run with an HR Besties listener and in his team, because I'm doing some lunch and learns for their team. And it had dry run. And I was chuckling and texted the girls. I was like, it's kind of good corporate cringe speak, is dry run. And we're like, yeah. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, where's the wet come in? I don't know. Maybe it's sweaty.
Ugh.
Oh. So now I'm like, what are the origins of that?
So I looked it up. It is a theater term where it's this idea of dry, meaning that you don't have all of the elements like the audience, but also again, I'm like, what's wet? Like, that's dangerous.
My head went to like dress rehearsal then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, yeah. So it started
practice.
in the theater, but again, it still doesn't solve what the wet run is. So this episode is our it's our wet run.
We're getting wet here. Yeah.
I'm gonna have some coffee.
Moving on.
Yeah, I guess we're doing the wet run right now.
We are. So that's there we go.
God, I look at that different now. So I appreciate that,
Our goal is always to have you then think of the terms at work and be in a meeting and start laughing or texting your work besties or just making this face when you think about having the wet run at work.
Yeah, well, I will definitely not use dry run ever again. I don't know if I ever have, but
right?
just in case.
Yeah, so who's having a bunch of wet runs today at work? We wish you the best with all of those wet runs. Don't forget your raincoat and whatever else you need.
We'll put them on the Walgreens receipt and we'll see what.
Exactly.
Jamie will take a look and tell you whether they're approved or not, the umbrella and otherwise.
Oh, man. All right. I almost said the wet run. All right. That's today's cringe speak, but dry run. Yeah, that really makes you think.
Wet run is the dry run. Like I really never thought twice until I did. And now.
And there you go. Now we're thinking 3 and 4 times now. Wet run and all that. Oh, gosh. Well, on that note, shifting gears to our meeting today, like I mentioned in the agenda, all things favoritism and nepotism. So let's dive in. Have you all ever been teacher's pet at work? Have you all ever been the favorite?
Not me.
No, not Jamie?
No, never me. I'm too outspoken to be the favorite. I know Ashley has been the favorite.
Ashley, have you been the favorite?
I think it's sometimes. I think probably it's sometimes. But I tend to hide my true self a little bit at work. I used to probably, but I definitely have had those times where I've had like a very special connection. And especially as I think now, other people that didn't have that connection, then what do you do? Which we'll get into. What about you, Leigh?
Yeah, no, I've been a favorite before, and kind of like, what does that look like? I think for me in that role, that was a lot of extra meetings, right? Like a lot more FaceTime to talk through things, like more acting as the sounding board or chief of staff for the leader, right? Like they got so comfortable, they wanted to just like run everything through me first, right? Because they just trusted me and I had just a different background and perspective than they did. And so that was like really key. What would Leigh do, right? So, I was in there in the office a lot, which you would think, okay, well, I get lots of FaceTime with the leader. That's fantastic. But for me, it got to the point where I couldn't really do my job. And my job was kind of shifting. So, I had to have conversations, to say, okay, are these new expectations for me, right? Am I coordinating this now, or am I doing X now because I can't prioritize what I thought being paid to do? So in some ways it was a little annoying. It's not all great being someone's favorite because you can kind of get to that exploitation point, where you're just filling all their gaps. But yeah, I was the favorite before. I think once, maybe twice.
That sounds actually kind of amazing because I wish people would run shit through me because I see sometimes these executives making decisions and I'm like, are you fucking serious? Can you talk to one of us down here in the middle?
I had to use my power for good, right? Like I would then translate that back to my colleagues and peers because of course I'm pretty self-aware. So I know that they're pissed off, they're curious, they wish they had a piece of that, the manager's time, whatever. I'd have to use that. Okay, he's asking me about this. What do we want to do? Blah, blah, blah. Like, so I had to kind of play both sides, respecting both sides, So that was fun. That was a job of juggle.
It's a very good point of how you use that power, because it really is. And a lot of times, power is, the most addictive drug at all in life, but certainly at work. And how you use it, is it to benefit just yourself? Is it to benefit others? And is it also the choice to do something about it and point it out? And I think that third is where it can be next level. But where you do tend to see it at work, I think in all types of environments, is those, if there's a leadership team, the leaders that are favorite. And so then they're able to advocate and get things for their team and, raises, opportunities, the FaceTime, all of that. And you have people on other teams that look and they're, have the pat on the head from their leader. And that's what I think can be a very ineffective boss, is one that wants to fight for you, but doesn't have that relationship. And then so all of a sudden you're looking and saying, well, I wish I were on their team, because clearly they're able to get things. And it ends up then creating real divides between the favorites and the not favorites.
No, that's an excellent point right there. And that's one where it's like, gosh, that's where, again, the need for leadership training comes in, to where leaders can be more aware and realize amongst themselves they have to have those conversations and synchronies and, really think about equity and all of this and just perceptions in the workplace. Because I think we've probably, as HR leaders, we've probably all had those conversations maybe multiple times, tons of times, to tell one really great leader, hey, chill out. Like really, like just chill a little bit maybe. And one really bad leader, hey, you need to warm up, right? I mean, you all definitely need a sync here, because this team of have-nots and this team of have-everythings, so that definitely happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think not only is it difficult for the person who's being favored, but it's also very difficult for everyone else who's not, right? So they're looking in and they're like, well, I do just as much work as them, or maybe I do more work than them because unfortunately you're playing chief of staff and you're not able to do your job. I'm running circles around them, and why am I not the favorite? Or I do better work or whatever. And then it comes down to the company culture, right? And it almost eats away at what's going on in your workplace. And while we've been talking, I've actually been kind of reflecting, like, have I been the favorite? And I don't know if I would say I was the favorite, but I definitely was ranking on her totem pole. And it was one of the most toxic places that I worked at. And the CEO often would just come in my office and sit and do the same thing, like run stuff by me and get my opinion on things. For me, because it was so toxic, I would use it as a tool, similar like you, Leigh, as I would be the voice of the employees. And she was also, I've mentioned her before, she was also one that I had to hint that she made up this idea, even though it might have been my idea or anyone else's, but I had to be like, remember when you said,
because you're so incredible.
But it was, thinking back on it, I think she didn't necessarily treat me different, because she really did truly have a favorite. Like, her and this one person went out to lunch every single day together. They would go shopping. They would go get their nails done in the middle of a work day. So I wasn't like that level, but I was definitely like maybe one step below that, where I was trusted for that information and to bounce things off of. And I did really, truly appreciate that. But like I said, it wasn't until I got out of that, till I realized just how fucking toxic that place was. And she was almost using her power like on me like that,
On one hand, you're having your input taken, considered by the CEO. But then the question is, okay, are you being elevated, your title, your compensation elevated to reflect that? Because also then, as you saying, okay, but I know there were other people that were the favorites. And so then they're getting those perks of like the nails, the trips. And so if you think about in the workplace, and I know I've seen it of like leaders that go on vacation with certain people on their teams, and they're like, oh, but we're friends outside of work, which is which is fine. I know we've talked about friendships at work, but you have to be super careful, especially when you're the leader and how that perception is, or the leader that throws a absolutely monumental birthday bash for one person on their team. And then somebody else's team, they don't even like pass around a card.
Yeah.
I get it that there's leaders that they just don't think about it. And so both of you all talked about is culture. Managers, I've said this, there's no such thing as an organizational culture. And that may not be true. Like, the ultimate leaders do set a tone, but the experience people have is generally tied 99.997% to their manager and what they create. So if you have something where you feel like you're the favorite, or you look at it, but somebody else on the team is like, what? And truly feels less than, and everybody on the team is like, what the? It just, the work cannot get done, and you will not have personal relationships. And so as a manager, thinking about, am I treating people fairly? And would others look at the team and think, well, you pass by my desk every day on the way in, my cubicle, and you're always stopping at this person's. And so some of those are visual cues that for managers, it's really important to think about, is having that. And there's also a lot you can gain from that by giving people an opportunity, even if you don't feel like you have the immediate vibe of BFFs like you do with XYZ on your team.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true, Ashley, because, reflecting on the time I was an extreme favorite, right, where my job basically morphed and changed, I felt it was divisive, right? It erodes trust. Because even though I wasn't trying to be in that position, I wasn't jockeying to be a favorite, or I wasn't trying to have control or power or whatever, it came to me, and then you're tied to them. And then people just see this, right? And, they're making up their own stories. They're filling in the blanks, right? They're creating narratives and, but for me, actually, the attention added more work, and I did not appreciate it, because like I said, I'd have to go and really work double time on building relationships with my peers and try to smooth things out, and then try to make it like okay, like, what do we want to do? And then I'll take it to him for approval or whatever, like I had to, just really play the middle a lot harder. And that was tough. I mean, to your point, I wasn't paid for all of that. It was just like, creating office politics and dramas for no reason, just because, someone perhaps was insecure and liked my advice. I don't know, so it's,
Shifting my wardrobe from summer to fall is always a challenge. But luckily, Quince is there with high-quality items, so I can freshen up my wardrobe without blowing my budget. I've had friends say, "Ooh, wait, do you really like Quince?" And I say, yes, and they're supporters of HR Besties. So why do I like them? Like, if you're thinking fall, they have gorgeous cashmere sweaters from $50, pants for every occasion, cute shirts that I can wear for work and after work, and so much more. And the best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts the cost out of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I love that. Like, I have these gorgeous silver croissant hoop earrings that I got from Quince that look like $1,000,000, and they were less than $40. I love them, and I'm happy to tell everyone who asks that I got them at Quince. Make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high-quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/HRBesties for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/HRBesties to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/HRBesties.
Boys are gearing up to go back to school next week. Can you believe it? And soon they're not going to be able to just yell down the hallway, "Mama," when they need something. I'm also going to need to coordinate pickups and after school practice. Plus, I need to make sure they're actually where they're supposed to be. And they'll want to message their friends, right? Because maybe they have a question about homework or Fortnite. And it makes sense that I want my kids to have the same tech as I do. But when I think about all the stuff that they could access on a smartphone, that's not good for them. That's why I want to tell you about Gab's back to school sale. Gab is the leader in safe smartphones and watches for kids, teens, and tweens. With no social media apps, no internet browser, and GPS tracking, Gab devices were built from the ground up specifically for kids and teens and are a way to keep your kids safely connected. And Gab phones and watches are still tech kids actually want. The Gab Music app for streaming clean music, and hundreds of third-party apps that can be installed at parents' discretion. Kids also get unlimited talk and text with Gab Messenger, the first messaging and video calling app designed with kids' safety as the top priority. Gab Messenger blocks high-risk messages and content with nudity from ever reaching your child's phone. This app is an exclusive to Gab phones and has a parent companion app for easy controls and to keep parents informed. Other safe device options or parental controls let you know what's already been accessed, but Gab phones and watches are built with smart filtration that proactively blocks harmful content before it ever reaches your child. Gab actually just launched their latest phone, the Gab Phone 4 Pro, with even more features than ever before. I personally love the focus mode. You can set specific times and days that they are able to play on the phone or the watch. And it's super helpful for my kids to be able to focus during school hours. So, right when that bell rings, they have full access back to their device. That's why I really think Gab is a must have this year, and I can't recommend it enough that you and your family give it a try. So, do it now because right now Gab is offering a huge discount on phones and watches to new customers. The best part, there's no contract required. Just go to gab.com/HRBesties to get started. That's Gab, GABB.com/HRBesties. Gab.com/HRBesties. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, how about the opposite, though? Have you ever not been the favorite? Other people were the favorites, and maybe you're the least favorite, right, on the team. Like, how does that feel? What does that look like? Has that happened to y'all?
Well, I've never been the least favorite.
There you go.
No, I mean, but I've always been very outspoken. So if I disagree with something, I'm going to tell you I disagree with. I'm also going to back it up with reasons why. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily not going to support it, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think might be a great idea or whatever. And I think that in and of itself is going to get you not well liked because I've always kind of spoke my mind. Also, I make jokes and I'm a little silly, goofy. This is who I am. A lot of people that I work with enjoy it and they don't mind it, but there are some of those people that are very professional and it's
like
not
stiff.
funny. This is not a joke, and so I rub those people the wrong way. So I definitely think that I have not been the favorite probably more than I've been the favorite. The good thing is I know I do my job. I know I do my job well. And I know that I run circles around a lot of people. So I think a lot of people, all in all, just don't bother me. They don't get in my way. But I'm also, the only friends I want to make are like work besties. And I'm not, I want to have some sort of connection with everyone if I can. But there are some people that are automatically going to dislike me.
Ashley, what about you?
I definitely have had circumstances, and I can think of probably one in particular, where, especially with my role, my background having been legal and HR, I mean, talk about like the dynamic duo of people that probably aren't going to be the favorites. And so one thing that at times has worked in my favor is I really like and I'm really passionate about having positive experiences at work, no matter what your role is. And so even when I was just solely a lawyer, which was for many years, whether I was talking internally to people or talking to opposing counsel and things, I always really had to take additional effort to be kind to people and respectful and explain where I was coming from. And every once in a while, people would not be that way. And my husband can tell you, he heard me when I turned into like, you don't want to fuck with me, because if that's how we're going to do it, then that is, but that's not. And I would also say like, that's not how I tend to work with people. But so sometimes I would have to tell people like, this is like, be the no person. And I always try to explain, but like being the no person, there's people that, you're getting in the way of their fun or their idea. And when you're not going to be a yes person and your responsibilities are to be a no. So I think in HR in particular, you have to sometimes really work hard to have those positive relationships and explain to people what your role is, because people don't know, and show them the positive things you can do. But for me, it felt really badly to come to work and either one, have that feeling of, I just feel like this person does not like me, does not want to hear what I have to say. Even worse, slightly worse, is when they tell it to you, the way they feel about you, which at least I can respect that, because the very worst thing is to hear it from other people of like, oh, do you know what they said about you? I'm like, I mean, I kind of want to know. I'm kind of not. Like, I can live my life without that level, because at the end of the day, like, sometimes you have a job to do. And so that's where I think that can be really hard, is when you know that you're capable. You may feel like you're not, but when you come to work and feel like someone does not like you, then you have to make that choice. I do think it's incredibly hard to overcome that. And this is where it's one of those go to God and go to the streets. If you're in an environment and you are the least favorite and you can feel that vibe, there's some stuff you can do, but you have to also decide, is it worth my effort to prove that I'm capable?
I was just about to say that. I was like, is it even worth it to prove it? And I think as HR people, we're already leading with dislike, just being in HR or legal. So it's hard when we're already leading with, well, the last HR person, blah, 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 or whatever stigma comes with HR.
That's, yeah, I'm just here like, I'm in my feels, because I'm recalling times where I was absolutely the least favorite. And I was thinking, well, what was the common denominator of those? And I think, from a manager perspective, being a manager's least favorite, I think it was because they felt, or we both knew, I could do the job better than they could, just based on their background and experience. Now, I would never say that, right? I would never said that to a leader, but I could feel or perceive perhaps that they were threatened, or, didn't like me for whatever reason, my background or this, that, and the other. Even though I was working my ass off to make them look good and look great, their way of working was to remove any sort of threats. I take the opposite as a leader, right? I hire for things I don't know. I want to be surrounded by people that are better than me, because it's just a reflection of my leadership, right? And helps me succeed, right? But lots of managers out there take the opposite approach. They want to be surrounded by idiots so that they just look the best, right? They don't want anyone to take their jobs. Like, they're just very threatened. And so I've had a couple of those. And what it looked like for me was being ostracized from different events or meetings, or not being informed. Everyone else communicated to with personal calls and texts on something big, me finding out the next week at staff, or through the water cooler. I mean, things like that are so hurtful, especially when they're pieces of information you need to perform your job, effectively. Those bosses would promote everybody else. Everybody else got the big raises, and, they dipped into my merit to make that happen, right? They dipped into my bonus to make that happen. And, people compare notes. So, that's exactly what happened. And the one thing that really killed me about one of these toxic bosses, that I was her least favorite, was that she gave me feedback to purposefully hurt me. And it was feedback that wasn't even true or real. Like, I'm talking, never in my life anyone has ever hinted. And I've gone through some extreme assessments, the places I've worked, and lots of feedback cultures. And never once did I hear, I was X, Y, and Z. To where one time it was so ridiculous, I called her on the shit. I was like, okay, here I go. I can't take this anymore. Because typically I don't fight narcissism because you can't win, right? So I'm just like, okay, Delulu. But in this one, I was like, you know what? I do not accept that feedback. And she freaked out. Wait, what? I was like, no one in my life has ever told me that. That is a lie. You are saying that on purpose to just try to hurt me. And I'm sick of it. And I mean, once I uncovered that, she's like, so to the point about, exiting, maybe the best thing to do in this situation. You are not going to change, what's deeply rooted for somebody like that. Like, I can't make her more secure. I can't make her comfortable with people that know different things than she does. Right? I mean, so you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. and the battle is just futile. So that's definitely one where, hey, if you are perceiving that your leader's playing favorites and you are definitely not one, or if you're an extreme favorite even and it makes you uncomfortable, like in my previous example, like you're not going to be able to change their perceptions of you, nor should you, right? But you can change your point of view, your scenery, your team. So it's best to just get to getting.
I think that's a really great point, because people say, well, that's frustrating for my boss. Then what, am I just supposed to leave? But that doesn't necessarily mean leave the organization. That can mean, and this is why, even as an employee, you don't have to be a manager or HR, but looking around and saying, what does the future look like? Is my boss going to be here for a long time? How long can I do this? And how can I compartmentalize and get the skills I need to either move internally, move to a different team, find that support externally, internally. And so there's a lot that you can do from that decision tree. And I mean, it is one where I think I talk about this a lot, is people are like, oh, what can we do? What can we do? Going to ChatGPT as like a personal coach, sometimes it's like, it can be reassuring because it's at your fingertips. But saying, if I'm in a situation and my boss, give an example, cut me out of this meeting, told me to stop talking during meetings, how can I respond in a way that preserves my career? Or questions like that. Sometimes, again, it's not a wizard, but it can give you that objective perspective if you can't find anybody else, especially.
Yeah. And this is a place that people, I'm sure they come to you. They definitely come to me. They come to me a lot asking for coaching. And so I love your advice. Go to ChatGPT.
we get individual questions. When we say questions and comments, people will say, and sometimes people send us these really long,
super
tough,
long.
And our heart resonates. We can't provide specific advice. Here we talk about things generally on the podcast, but so finding those resources, there are people that provide coaching. But again, I don't have a budget. Well, there's a lot you can do between expensive coaching and nothing. And sometimes it's like, let me fire up old ChatGPT and get some ideas. And it is constantly surprising me with what it can do to be a sounding board on things.
Yeah. I think one of the big questions people ask is, well, what can I do about this? And what do I do next? And it's always, should I go to HR? Should I file a complaint? Should I do X, Y, and Z? And honestly, it's not illegal to be an asshole. So if your boss is an asshole, that's not illegal. And it will take years of rehabilitation and development and training, if they're even getting anything, for them to change, air quotes, who they fundamentally are, right? So if you do not like something, you are in control of you. And so instead of taking that futile, sad, lonely road of trying to go through all of this and to try and change them or move them out or get them fired or whatever, the quickest thing you can do is just take charge and control of where you choose to perform your work. You know what I mean? So different team or whatever. But I mean, it could take years, to see change. And then this is where HR, we always get turned to be like, well, we told you HR and whatever. We get it, right? But we need documentation. I need a reason to fire somebody. I have nothing, they're so great at kissing up and stomping down. There's or nothing they're doing is illegal. I'm counseling them, but guess what? Tiger stripes, they're still assholes. I don't, so a lot of that behavior in the workplace, it's going to be hard to affect change, So, thoughts on that? Have y'all been there?
Yes. Just get the fuck out.
Right.
Well, I can't, because it is, in employment laws. I know people in countries outside the U.S., they're much more employee friendly. The U.S. can be a very tricky place. If you have specific questions, it's always best to consult an employee side attorney. They'll often do free consultations, but it's having been there as a lawyer, both in courtrooms, but then just generally, people often are very surprised about what's legal and illegal in the U.S. And sometimes, an equal opportunity asshole generally is not not illegal, but it is frustrating. But then it's the same thing. Like, what's HR going to do? Well, that depends on what the leaders will let HR do, and so it can be really frustrating.
there has to be a clear infraction, right? I mean,
Has to reach the level of a hostile work environment. It's sexual harassment, something.
yeah, I mean, there has to be something, that is very clear. And that sucks and it's unfortunate, but that's the truth of the matter because, you can't move to termination just because someone is claiming that, they're not the favorite or a favoritism. I do encourage people to speak up about it though, because then that helps HR kind of keep an eye on the situation. But there isn't something where we could just go, okay, well.
Yeah, we can't just fix it for you overnight.
Yeah, you're done. Pull the plug.
Right. As we said, HR does not almost ever make these decisions on their own. Again, you'll have legal come in at times. Sometimes legal may say, like, we have to do this. We have to, or this is the risk the organization will take on if we don't do this. But often it's that non-legal, non-HR person that's making that ultimate decision. That's where it can get really hard and really frustrating for HR that lives and deals with these, very toxic leaders and decisions and those ripple effects that they have on team members.
Whether you're taking care of your kids, a senior loved one, or juggling both, we all need a break sometimes. Care.com can help give you that break by helping you find trusted caregivers in your neighborhood. For me and my 800 jobs, I tend not to make much time for myself, or even my husband and I. That's when the guilt sets in. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, my husband ended up convincing me to go out to dinner with him. We ended up having a simple, quiet dinner and a long, uninterrupted conversation, something we hadn't done in months. Having help in my corner has made a world of difference. It allows me to be more present and less stressed, both at work and home. It really does take a village. See why 29 million families have turned to Care.com. Find background check, highly rated sitters, nannies, and senior caregivers who can help with everything from watching kids after school to meal prep for seniors. You call the shots, find what's right for you, whether it's full-time, part-time, or even occasional help, all on one simple platform. On Care.com, you can search caregivers, view rates, and find care that fits your budget and schedule. How convenient is that? Check out Care.com to get support and the break you need.
The land down under has never been easier to reach. United Airlines has more flights between the U.S. and Australia than any other U.S. airline, so you can fly nonstop to destinations like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Explore dazzling cities, savor the very best of Aussie cuisine, and get up close and personal with the wildlife. Who doesn't want to hold a koala? Go to united.com/Australia to book your adventure.
Now, one thing I want to touch upon before we close this meeting out is nepotism, right? So this probably needs its own episode, to be honest. But, definitely a type of favoritism potentially, right? I see that people use these terms interchangeably a lot, but really, it's people being favored for whatever reason in the workplace. So have you all come across kind of intense or severe cases of nepotism at work? Have you all seen that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's why a lot of times you're going to have those policies in place about, friends and family cannot work, at least cannot be directly supervised by their spouse, or mother, sister, brother, aunt for those exact reasons. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Or, I've even been at companies where spouses applied, both got hired. They had the same last name. No one had any idea for months and months and months.
And they didn't disclose that?
Nope. Months and months and months. Didn't have any idea. It was I who ran an employee list. And I think we were doing like Christmas cards or something. And I noticed they lived in the same address. And then I was like, wait a sec. And this, we're like 3 months in at this point. So then, their jobs had nothing to do with each other, but the fact that they didn't disclose it was very sus, Yeah. And of course, then the one started applying to be in the other spouse's department. It just like, and then when I realized that, and then I went to their benefits and I noticed beneficiaries.
Jamie's going deep on the investigate. This is.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Well, because they could be roommates. No big deal. They have the same last name. that's probably, they could be brother, sister. I don't know.
This is where we say often HR does not have the time to like do things.
Yeah, but no, I definitely did when I saw that. I think it was a workers' comp report that I had to run for like a certain state. And there was only like 5 employees in that state. And I was like, oh, so-and-so and so. Oh.
Wow.
Wait a sec.
I'll give a quick note to end on the nepotism. It is the road to hell is paved with people that are on the same team as the board member's nephew.
Oh my God.
Because
board members.
that person is never showing up to work on time. And that is perfectly fine. You may do that person's work and that is perfectly fine because that person has, is the ultimate protected class is if you are related.
You are fucked.
To a senior executive, then that is like having all of the goodies in Mario Kart and all of the toys, and you are safe. Leigh?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this in 2 extremes, like big time extremes, and I really haven't worked anywhere that's had strict rules on this. Definitely chain of command rules, but I don't even know that they were written down. It was just kind of an understanding, right? But if you are a leader and you are listening to this, please, your daughter doesn't need that internship at your workplace. Your niece doesn't need to be hired as a contract recruiter. All these things, like it just looks tacky and inappropriate as hell. It looks like a lack of leadership. And we're all talking shit about you behind the scenes on why you would exploit your power like that. We just are. Because you look fucking terrible. You do. You look terrible doing that. And that's wonderful that you selfishly wanted to give someone you love an opportunity. And perhaps it was the right opportunity, but it reflects poorly on you and your leadership in your workplace, like the end, So if you want to take that hit, take it. But please don't. Right? Oh my gosh. I just look at them different when people do that. I have the perfect person, it's my whoever. My loved one I know for 30 years. Okay, great. Oh, man. Well, shall we close that topic there and shift into some questions and comments? What do we got? Do we have any questions and comments? I do have a question for y'all. Should I dive into it?
Sure, go for it.
So we talked about expense reports early in our water cooler talk. Thank you, Jamie, again for that. But it was making me think about when you do travel for work and you travel with coworkers. I got in a debate with someone recently on this, but do you sit together on the plane with those coworkers or not? What's the rule on that for y'all?
Thinking back, I have. But we were like friends too.
Okay. So you were like bonding. You were team building while you were...
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say we were work besties, but we definitely were like good friends. Like I knew about her family and her,
Yeah, it definitely, I guess that is a good test to see if that's like a friend at work or not, is who you would sit next to. I mean, I once paid to upgrade to sit next to my boss in the class. They were sitting, but it was because, and also I wanted to get like the next level of Sky Miles, and you get like an advantage if you do that. But also like we were flying across the country and we had like so many laughs because the flight attendant kept skipping him. And we were like chuckling about this. And so I was about to say yes across the board, but then I thought to myself, no, especially if I don't know someone that well, I certainly would not go out of my way to like switch and sit with them. But yeah, and I tend to be a worker on planer or watch movies. I don't like when people talk the whole time on the flight. So I'm answering that with a yes, no. Leigh?
It's a hell no for me.
Yeah, I was like, I knew that answer.
It's an absolute hell no.
Okay, but what about us? Would you sit with us?
Maybe. I'd sit within a couple rows.
Well, what does that matter? If you're not, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm going to throw shit at you now, but...
No, just to be close, so you can kind of exit the plane. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way to, like, be right at the next seat. But it's to the points that you're talking about. Like, it hurts physically to move your head, like, and talk to people the whole flight. Whoa. I've done that, and that freaking hurts. I have to have a window seat due to flight anxiety, so I have to have a window. So I'm not going to accommodate and sit in an aisle to be able to sit next to somebody. Does that make sense, So I have my certain seat, but I need to I have to have sound I need something blasting in my ears to distract me from the flight, right? Then I'm going to watch my shows, which are probably questionable. Maybe they're light porny, but not, you know what I'm saying? But
Light porny.
Light.
Softcore.
Like Outlander.
like, it's a murder documentary. And then my coworker's going to be like, WTF? Oh yeah, bitch, every night. Like I watch this shit, like.
This relaxes me.
Yeah, it does. It does, So yeah, so it's one of those. And then, international flights, like you're sleeping. And so I would not want to be next to a coworker and I'm there, with my mouth open. I'm a mouth breather. But you know what I mean? Like that gets awkward.
I have had that happen to me where I flew. I mean, I used to fly internationally back and forth to Sydney. I flew in coach and squished by myself. But I did get to fly first class once when I worked at a large consulting firm and flew with a colleague. And I forgot my melatonin. I didn't have anything. And so I didn't sleep on the flight. I felt like shit when we arrived in Amsterdam, actually, for my Amsterdam trip. But I walked past my colleague who was my good friend at work. And she was mouth open, and I was chuckling to myself. And I was jealous because she was sleeping. But man, I mean, Jamie and I would be like, oh, can we share a seat together?
Sit on each other's lap and shit.
Yeah, I would sit on Ashley's lap. We'll braiding each other's hair.
Oh my God, doing masks and shit.
Yeah, and I'd be like, I don't like people talking on flight. Right here I would be with Jamie, hee hee. I'll veer this into my comments, which is one time I say I don't like people talking on flights. And part of that is probably projection on myself. Because once I was going on a girls' trip, this was 10 plus years ago. I was just out with a girlfriend Saturday night who was on this with me and brought this story up, as we do frequently. So we were flying. Everybody else was driving from Atlanta down to 38, but 3 of us were flying. And the Delta flight attendant was like, oh, you guys going on a girls' trip? She brought us a bottle of wine, so nice. And we're sitting there drinking on the flight. Anyway, we're having a good time, whatever. We get there and we're at baggage claim, which is, I know you don't like that, Leigh, the baggage claim, right?
Nope, I don't use it.
It's a bad idea, but we were baggage claim. This woman comes to me and I don't know why. She had a hand puppet almost on her sock. It wasn't just a wrist brace. And that part we never understood. And she comes up right to me and she says, excuse me, I have to tell you, you were very loud on the plane and you were very disruptive to everyone on the plane.
Oh, damn.
Damn.
Wow.
You know me.
Wow.
And my eyes, you know me, I was so embarrassed. And I said, all of us, pointing to 2 other people, all of us or just me? She's like, just you.
Why did you even ask that? Fuck her.
Oh, I know she needs data. I would have been like, fuck you, bitch. Fuck you, you boring ass bitch that no one wants to talk to.
Well, that's my thing. I said, am I the representative of our friends? And then, so my friends, my girlfriend Megan, who's real, she'll come at you. She's like,
yeah, that's me.
I would have jumped her shit.
She was like, I'm sorry. She's like, no. And I was like, of course. I'm like, was I that loud? And somebody else there just came up and she's like, you were not. She's like, this woman is crazy. And I was like, thank you for providing the reassurance. I pretty much haven't said a word on a flight since.
Rude. That is so rude.
Oh, that makes me sad. That's really fucked up.
Because there are people that I would be like, that's obnoxious. And I do have probably a louder voice than I intend. But this other woman, then somebody else came up as well and was like, you girls are fine. You're fine. But I was like, everybody are just me, So.
Oh my God. Oh, I want to go back in time. I wish you had her address. I would call her.
I know.
But my girlfriend the other night, she was like, why did that woman have the sock puppet? I was like, I don't know. I still don't really understand.
And she's walking around with a sock puppet.
It was,
yeah.
But anyway.
She has got no place to be giving people feedback, okay?
Don't worry. No peeps coming out of me on flights.
Oh, damn. Well, that's fine. I would sit, let me take that back a little bit. I would totally sit next to y'all. I just have to have the window.
That's fine.
But before we take off, though, you will see me. I will put the headphone. You may be mid-sentence, and I'll just be like, bye-bye. You're welcome to keep talking, because I can't control you, but I can control me, so.
That's fine.
I got to have this music. I got to zen out,
problem.
But anyway.
We understand.
Ashley and I would be playing Hangman or something.
Right. Oh, gosh. Well, on that note, thanks for joining us for this wet run of our Plan A meeting here. So we appreciate you, besties. Please like, follow, and share.